From the very start of my career, I faced an uphill battle against disbelief and disdain. Working in a modest restaurant in Boston, I was often overlooked by John, the most influential food critic in the city. John, a staunch traditionalist, always seemed to underestimate me, dismissing my creations without a second thought. He often claimed that I lacked the necessary experience to craft anything truly innovative. It was frustrating, to say the least, but I refused to let his words deter me. "Don't let him get to you," Sarah would often say, her voice a soothing balm to my wounded pride. Sarah, my dear friend and fellow chef, had always been my rock. We met years ago in culinary school, and our friendship had only grown stronger with time. "You have the talent, Linda. You just need the right opportunity to show it." That opportunity came when I received an invitation to participate in MasterChef USA, a renowned TV cooking competition. The moment I opened that email, my heart raced with a mix of excitement and apprehension. This was my golden chance to prove myself, not just to John, but to the entire culinary world. "Sarah, I got in!" I exclaimed, barely able to contain my excitement as I called her. "Linda, that's amazing. I knew you could do it," she replied, her enthusiasm matching mine. "This is your moment. Go out there and show them what you're made of." With renewed determination, I filled out the application and prepared myself for the challenges ahead. I knew the journey wouldn't be easy. The competition was fierce, and the pressure of performing on national television was daunting. But I was ready. I had to be. The first day on set was a whirlwind of activity. Cameras, lights, and an array of cooking stations greeted us as we walked onto the set. Mark, the show's charismatic host, welcomed us with a broad smile. "Welcome to MasterChef USA. This season, we have some incredibly talented chefs competing for the title. Get ready for a series of intense culinary challenges that will test your skills, creativity, and resilience." As I took my place among the other contestants, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of nerves and excitement. This was it. The beginning of my journey to prove my worth. In the initial rounds, I faced a myriad of challenges. From mystery box ingredients to intricate pastry designs, each task pushed me to my limits. Mark's encouraging words and Sarah's unwavering support kept me going. "You're doing great, Linda," Sarah would say during our breaks. "Just keep your focus and trust in your abilities." Despite my efforts, John, who had been invited as a guest judge for several episodes, continued to undermine me. His critiques were harsh, often nitpicking at the smallest details. "This dish lacks depth," John would say, his tone dripping with condescension. "I'm not convinced you have what it takes to create something truly exceptional." His words stung, but I refused to let them break me. Instead, I used his criticism as fuel to push myself harder. I spent countless hours perfecting my techniques, experimenting with flavors, and crafting dishes that I hoped would finally win his approval. One evening, as I was preparing for the next day's challenge, Sarah approached me with a determined look in her eyes. "Linda, I know John has been tough on you, but don't let him get inside your head. You have something special. I've seen it. The judges have seen it. Just keep pushing forward." Her words resonated with me. I realized that I was not just fighting for myself, but also for everyone who had believed in me. I couldn't afford to let them down. The competition grew more intense with each passing round. There were moments of doubt, moments when I questioned my abilities, but I always found a way to push through. With each challenge, my confidence grew, and I began to see glimpses of the recognition I had longed for. Finally, the day came when I created a dish that I believed would be a game-changer. It was a fusion of traditional and modern techniques, a bold and innovative creation that I hoped would leave a lasting impression. As I presented my dish to the judges, I felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Mark's eyes lit up as he took his first bite, and a smile spread across his face. "This is extraordinary, Linda," he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. "You've truly outdone yourself. Even Sarah, who had always been my toughest critic, couldn't hide her pride. "I told you, Linda. You have what it takes." But as expected, John remained unimpressed. "It's decent," he said dismissively. "But it still lacks that wow factor." I took a deep breath, refusing to let his words dampen my spirit. I knew that my journey was far from over, and I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With each step, I grew more determined to prove that I deserved to be there, to show the world that Linda, the underestimated chef from Boston, could create something truly revolutionary. And with Sarah by my side, I knew that anything was possible. Participating in the MasterChef USA was a whirlwind of emotions and challenges from the very start. As I walked onto the set for the first time, the bright lights and bustling energy were both exhilarating and intimidating. Mark, the charismatic host, greeted each of us with his signature smile. "Welcome, chefs. This is where the magic happens," he said, his enthusiasm contagious. From the beginning, the competition was fierce. Each week presented a new culinary challenge, and the stakes were always high. I remember the first challenge vividly, a mystery box filled with eclectic ingredients that needed to be transformed into a gourmet dish. As the clock started, I could feel my heart racing. My mind raced even faster, trying to come up with a concept that would stand out. Sarah, my friend and fellow competitor, was stationed next to me. "You got this, Linda," she whispered, giving me a reassuring nod. Her support meant the world to me, especially in such a high-pressure environment. As I plated my dish, Mark approached my station. "What do we have here, Linda?" he asked, his eyes twinkling with curiosity. "Today, I've prepared a seared duck breast with a cranberry reduction and a parsnip puree," I replied, trying to mask my nerves with confidence. Mark took a bite, his expression contemplative. "This is fantastic," he finally said, a smile breaking across his face. "The flavors are balanced, and the presentation is impeccable." I felt a surge of pride, but I knew the toughest critic was yet to come. John, the notoriously harsh food critic, approached with an air of skepticism. He took a bite and then leveled his gaze at me. "The duck is slightly overcooked," he remarked, his tone dismissive. "And the parsnip puree could use more seasoning." It was a blow to my confidence, but I refused to be deterred. Each challenge was an opportunity to prove myself, and I was determined not to let John's criticism shake me. As the weeks went by, the challenges grew increasingly difficult. One week, we had to create a dish inspired by our culinary heroes. I chose to pay homage to my grandmother, whose home-cooked meals had ignited my passion for cooking. I prepared a modern take on her classic beef stew, incorporating molecular gastronomy techniques to elevate the dish. Mark was once again impressed. "Linda, this is a brilliant fusion of tradition and innovation," he said, his excitement palpable. However, John was less enthused. "It's a decent attempt," he conceded, "but it lacks the soul of the original dish." Despite his relentless criticism, I continued to push forward, finding solace in Sarah's unwavering support. She was not only a fierce competitor but also a true friend who understood the struggle of proving oneself in such a cutthroat environment. One of the most pivotal moments came during a particularly grueling challenge. We were tasked with creating a dish that represented our culinary philosophy. I decided to create a dish that fused traditional New England flavors with modern techniques. It was a risky move, but I believed in my vision. As the clock ticked down, the tension in the kitchen was palpable. I could see the determination in everyone's eyes, including Sarah's. When the time was up, I presented my dish, a deconstructed clam chowder with a sous vide lobster tail and a foam made from clam broth. Mark was visibly impressed. "This is genius, Linda," he exclaimed. "You've taken a classic and turned it into something entirely new and exciting." But as expected, John remained critical. "While it's innovative," he began, "it feels like you're trying too hard to impress." His words stung, but the positive feedback from Mark and the other judges buoyed my spirits. I knew I was on the right track, even if John couldn't see it. Sarah and I often found ourselves talking in the break room, sharing our hopes and fears. "You're doing amazing, Linda," she said one evening, her voice filled with sincerity. "Don't let John get to you. He just can't see past his own biases." Her words were a balm to my weary soul. "Thanks, Sarah," I replied, grateful for her friendship. "I couldn't do this without you." As the competition continued, the bond between Sarah and me grew stronger. We were each other's pillars of support, navigating the highs and lows together. Despite the intense rivalry, our friendship remained unshaken, and it gave me the strength to keep fighting for my dreams. With each challenge, I felt myself growing more confident and skilled, ready to face whatever came next, even if it meant dealing with John's relentless skepticism. I was determined to prove that I belonged there, that my talent and vision were worthy of recognition. And with Sarah by my side, I knew I could conquer any obstacle. As the competition progressed, I found myself evolving in ways I hadn't imagined. Each challenge pushed me to my limits, but also made me realize just how far I could go when I truly believed in myself. I remember the night before the crucial episode vividly. I lay awake in my small, hotel room bed, staring at the ceiling, contemplating the dish that could either make or break me. "Sarah, I don't know if this is too much," I confessed over the phone to my best friend and fellow contestant. "Linda, it's brilliant," Sarah replied, her voice steady and reassuring. "You've got to go for it. This is your moment." The next day, I walked into the studio with my head held high. Mark, the ever-charismatic host, greeted us with his usual enthusiasm. "Chefs, today you'll need to create a dish that showcases your culinary journey. Something that tells a story." I knew this was my chance. My plan was to create a dish that represented my roots, my struggles, and my vision for the future of cuisine. I decided on a fusion of traditional New England flavors with avant-garde techniques I had been experimenting with in private. As the clock ticked down, the kitchen was a whirlwind of activity. The scent of spices, the sizzle of pans, and the hum of equipment filled the air. I was in my zone, completely focused, yet aware of every second passing by. My dish was coming together beautifully, and I could feel the excitement building up inside me. When time was up, I took a deep breath and stepped forward to present my creation to the judges. Mark smiled warmly as he approached. "Linda, what have you prepared for us today?" he inquired. "This is a deconstructed clam chowder with molecular gastronomy techniques," I began. "The clams are poached in a seaweed-infused broth, the potatoes are turned into an espuma, and the bacon is a crispy lattice on top. It's my homage to Boston, but with a modern twist." The judges tasted my dish one by one. I watched their faces intently, searching for any hint of their thoughts. When it was John's turn, I held my breath. He was notorious for his harsh critiques, and I knew he had never been my biggest fan. John took a bite, his expression inscrutable. For a moment, the room was silent. Then, he put down his fork and looked at me. "Linda, I've been skeptical of your abilities from the start," he began, and my heart sank. "However, today you have proved me wrong. This dish is extraordinary. The balance of flavors, the innovative techniques, it's a true masterpiece." I could hardly believe my ears. As the judges and contestants stood up to give me a standing ovation, I felt a wave of emotions wash over me, relief, joy, and a deep sense of accomplishment. Even John, who had always been my harshest critic, was clapping, albeit reluctantly. Backstage, Sarah was waiting for me with open arms. "You did it, Linda. You really did it." "I couldn't have done it without your support," I admitted, hugging her tightly. "This is just as much your victory as it is mine." As the episode aired, the response from viewers was overwhelming. I started getting messages and calls from chefs, food critics, and fans from all over the country. For the first time, I felt like I was truly being seen for who I was and what I could do. However, as my star was rising, I couldn't help but notice John's increasing discomfort. He seemed threatened by my success, and I caught him watching me with a calculating look more than once. It worried me, but I was determined not to let anything or anyone derail my newfound momentum. In the weeks that followed, I continued to push boundaries and take risks. Each dish I created was a step further in my journey of self-discovery and professional growth. And with each success, I grew more confident that I could not only win this competition but also earn the respect and recognition I had always longed for. But deep down, I knew that the real test was yet to come. And when it did, I would be ready. When I was on the brink of entering the final round of MasterChef USA, everything seemed to be aligning perfectly. I had worked tirelessly, pouring my heart and soul into every dish I created throughout the competition. But then, the unthinkable happened. Someone sabotaged my station. As I stood there, staring at my ruined ingredients, a wave of despair washed over me. I couldn't believe this was happening, especially at such a crucial moment. As the shock began to subside, my mind raced through potential suspects. The first name that came to mind was John. He had always been dismissive of my talents and seemed increasingly uncomfortable with my success. But without concrete evidence, I couldn't accuse him outright. I felt a mix of anger and helplessness, unsure of how to move forward. Just then, Sarah approached me. Seeing the state I was in, she immediately understood something was wrong. "Linda, what happened?" she asked, concern etched across her face. "Someone sabotaged my station," I replied, my voice trembling with frustration. "I don't know who, but I have a feeling it was John." Sarah's eyes widened in shock. "That's terrible. But we can't let him win. We need to come up with a plan." I could see the determination in her eyes, and it gave me the strength to keep going. "I don't know what to do, Sarah. My dish is ruined." Sarah glanced around, then leaned in closer. "Listen, you can use my dish. I have a backup plan for my own presentation. It's not as intricate as yours, but it's solid. We can make this work." I was touched by her generosity and loyalty. "I can't take your dish, Sarah. This is your chance too." She shook her head firmly. "We're in this together. Besides, I know you can turn this around. Let's combine our efforts and make something amazing." After a brief moment of hesitation, I nodded. "All right, let's do it." We quickly got to work, blending elements of her dish with my own ideas. Despite the time constraints and the unexpected twist, we managed to create something that, while not as groundbreaking as my original plan, still had a unique flair. When it was time to present to the judges, my heart pounded in my chest. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, placing the dish in front of them. Mark, the charismatic host, gave me an encouraging nod as I began to explain our creation. "This dish is a collaborative effort," I started, glancing at Sarah who stood nearby, her support unwavering. "It represents resilience and the ability to adapt under pressure." The judges took their first bites, and the room fell into a tense silence. Moments later, I saw a flicker of surprise in their eyes, followed by appreciative nods. Even John couldn't completely hide his reluctant approval, though I could sense his discomfort. After the judging, Sarah and I retreated to the contestant lounge. We both knew that the real challenge wasn't just about impressing the judges, but also uncovering the truth behind the sabotage. That night, we made a pact. "We need to find proof," Sarah said, her voice resolute. "We can't let John get away with this." I agreed wholeheartedly. "Whatever it takes, we'll find out the truth." Over the next few days, we carefully observed and gathered information. With the help of some discreet inquiries and a bit of luck, we managed to obtain security footage that clearly showed John tampering with my station. Armed with this evidence, we approached the producers of MasterChef USA. They were shocked and immediately took action, ensuring that justice would be served. The following day, John was confronted and removed from his role as a judge. When the final round arrived, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. With the support of Sarah and the knowledge that truth had prevailed, I presented my most innovative dish yet. The judges were astounded, and when they announced me as the winner, I felt a wave of relief and triumph. During my victory speech, I couldn't help but acknowledge the ordeal we had faced. "This win is not just mine," I said, looking at Sarah with gratitude. "It's a testament to friendship, integrity, and the unwavering belief in doing what's right." The audience erupted in applause, and I knew that, despite the challenges, I had finally earned the respect and recognition I had always sought. Sarah and I decided to open a restaurant together where we could continue to create and innovate, proving that with determination and the right support, anything is possible. During the grand finale, I knew I had to bring my A game. The pressure was immense, but I had been preparing for this moment my entire life. The dish I chose to present was a culmination of everything I had learned, a fusion of traditional flavors with cutting-edge techniques. As I plated the final elements, I could hear the murmur of the audience and feel the weight of every eye on me. This was it, my chance to prove myself once and for all. Mark, the charismatic host, approached my station with his signature smile. "Linda, you've been one of the most impressive contestants we've had. What are you presenting today?" Taking a deep breath, I replied, "This is a deconstructed New England clam chowder with molecular gastronomy techniques. It's a tribute to my Boston roots, but with a modern twist." Mark nodded appreciatively. "Can't wait to see how the judges react." The judges, including the ever-critical John, took their seats. As they began tasting my dish, I watched their expressions intently. To my amazement, even John seemed taken aback. His usual air of arrogance was replaced by a look of genuine surprise. "Linda," John began, his voice uncharacteristically soft, "this is extraordinary. The balance of flavors, the innovative approach, it's truly remarkable." The other judges echoed his sentiments, and Mark stepped forward to announce the winner. "Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of this season's MasterChef USA is Linda." The room erupted in applause and cheers. For a moment, I was overwhelmed with joy, but I knew my victory speech had to address the sabotage that nearly derailed my journey. Taking the microphone, I steadied myself. "Thank you, everyone, for this incredible honor. However, there's something I need to share with you all." The room quieted down, and I continued, "A few days ago, my station was sabotaged, and it almost cost me my place in this competition. With the help of my dear friend Sarah, we managed to find out who was responsible." I paused, looking directly at John. "We discovered that it was John who tampered with my station." Gasps rippled through the audience, and the judges looked stunned. I signaled to the tech team, and they played the video evidence we had gathered. The footage clearly showed John manipulating my ingredients, confirming our suspicions. John's face turned ashen, and he stammered, This is a misunderstanding." But the evidence was irrefutable. The head judge stood up, visibly angry. "John, your actions are inexcusable. You are disqualified as a juror and will face consequences for your behavior." As John was escorted out, I felt a sense of justice. Turning back to the audience, I said, "This win is not just mine but also Sarah's. Without her support and loyalty, I wouldn't be standing here today." Sarah joined me on stage, and we hugged tightly, both of us emotional. "We're in this together," she whispered. After the show, we were swarmed by reporters and fans. One journalist asked, "Linda, now that you've won and exposed the sabotage, what's next for you?" Smiling, I replied, "Sarah and I have decided to open a restaurant together. A place where we can continue to innovate and push the boundaries of culinary art." Sarah nodded, adding, "We want to create a space where chefs are respected and their talents recognized. No more underestimating anyone." The support from the public was overwhelming. We received countless messages of encouragement and congratulations. It felt surreal. I had not only won the competition but had also gained the respect and recognition I had always dreamed of. Opening our restaurant was a new challenge, but with Sarah by my side, I knew we could achieve anything. Our journey had proven that friendship and determination could overcome any obstacle, and we were ready to take on the culinary world together.